Welcome to the very first episode of Come On, Let's Hear It. We're so excited to know that you're here. This podcast was brought to you by AG Bell's Young Leaders Network, and we're your hosts, Emerson and Ammanu. To kick things off, we're starting something very personal, our own hearing loss journeys. This podcast is about real stories, honest conversations, and creating a space for connections and awareness within the deaf and hard of hearing, listening, and spoken language community. Throughout the season, you'll hear from young adults, professionals, and others who want to share their experiences and join in on a meaningful conversation about hearing loss, identity, and community. We're so glad that you're here. Let's dive right in. We're so excited to start off this new podcast. Come on, let's hear it. We will start off by introducing ourselves so that you can get to know us a little bit better. We'll say what our names are, what we do for work, and what kind of hearing loss we have, and what devices we wear. And the one thing we're really excited about in this podcast series. So, Ammanu, would you like to start us off?
Sure. My name is Ammanu. I am currently a law clerk at a law firm here in Atlanta, and I have bilateral auditory neuropathy, and I wear cochlear implants, the Nucleus 7 to be specific. And yeah, I'm very excited about this podcast series, so thank you for joining us.
My name is Emerson. I am AG Bell's Program Manager of Youth and Community Engagement. I have bilateral profound hearing loss, and I also wear Nucleus 7 cochlear implants. And the one thing I'm really excited about for this podcast is just the people that we get to connect with and talk with because, hearing everyone's stories is so inspiring. So we're really excited. For both me and Ammanu, growing up, we were the only deaf people in our families. When our parents first found out about our hearing loss, it was a shock. They suddenly had to make big decisions that they were never expected to face. But like any parent, they did their best to what they had, and they wanted to choose what was best for us, especially when they wanted us to thrive. Now, as adults, we look back at these early moments and realize just how much our hearing loss has shaped us, whether it be our confidence, our identity, and the people that we have become today. So the most important question I guess everybody wants to know about is how was our hearing loss identified? Was it at birth? Was it after your first birthday? Um, you know, Everyone gets their diagnosis at different times. So what about you, Ammanu?
So I was actually a preemie, as I believe many other people with hearing loss, and I was born at 28 weeks. And in order to leave the hospital, they had to do a hearing test after my first 3 months alive. So I failed the hearing test, and that's how they were able to diagnose me with the auditory neuropathy.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't very easy for your parents, but they had to do what was best for you. So, identification is never easy to deal with, but they are going to learn how to navigate this. I guess I would say mine is different. I mean, I'm sure parents have navigated this as well. We are probably not the only ones, but when I was born, I did not pass the initial hearing test. And so my parents were told to come back a week later to redo the hearing test, and I passed. But then as I got older, my parents kind of were wondering, why isn't she responding to sounds? Why isn't she, you know, babbling as much? And they kind of felt
Mhm.
like something was off. And so about a year and a half, that's when I was diagnosed with hearing loss. And it actually was not profound hearing loss. It ended up just being moderate to severe. And
Mhm.
then it kind of quickly went from there and it just dipped within the year or two after my hearing loss diagnosis. So, every journey is different. And,
Mhm.
I'm glad that we have the technology to detect hearing loss and see, is there a hearing loss and all of that. And it does not run in my family. So it was a big shock to know that somebody in my family was diagnosed with hearing loss. So,
For sure. Yeah, that's really interesting.
um, you know, when we're the only ones with hearing loss in our family, we tend to navigate the world a little bit differently. Our
Mhm.
world for us mainly is the hearing world, and we're surrounded by hearing peers and all of that. And so you're kind of questioning, am I in the hearing world? Am I in the deaf world? So, did you ever experience a time where you felt like you were totally out of place because of your hearing loss? And
Mhm.
if you did have that experience, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. and I think it's a really good point. To be honest, as a young kid, I was a bit naive about my hearing loss. I kind of pushed it to the side, in terms of what it meant to my identity, what it meant for me every day. I just kind of accepted for what it is, but I didn't really like truly appreciate it until later on when in high school, like freshman year, my left implant failed and I was having serious issues with hearing out of my left. And I needed to have surgery and I missed a bunch of school. And, all my friends are wondering, like, what's going on with the Manu? Like, and I just felt really left out because I was the only one in that situation that kind of understood what was going on to me. But my friends, they didn't understand and they're all hearing. So, that was really challenging for me, but I think that kind of pushed me to confront this part of my identity a little bit more, and I think it was actually really needed. And looking back on it, back on that time, I really appreciate it for doing that.
I know it's not easy. It really is
Yeah,
not. I mean, I can totally understand feeling left out and not having anybody understand your reality because I think for me, it's more of nobody truly understood what I was going through. And so, I was told by my parents that a lot of kids would be like, she's not listening to me or she's not, paying attention to me
mm,
and, things like that because sometimes they would be talking to me behind my back and, trying to get my attention. And then I wouldn't be able to turn around because I can't hear it. I don't know what's going on.
right,
I think for me, in an overall sense, is that I kind of just felt different from the others because I just had these chunky cochlear implants and it stood out. And that was the first thing everybody noticed. And then you get the question of what are those behind your ears and what does that do? And, it was just constantly getting the stares and getting questions about, what is that? At first I was very hesitant about it. And then,
mhm,
when I got older, I really wanted to become more comfortable with my hearing loss and talk about it confidently rather than feeling ashamed of it, if that makes sense.
right,
Um, I've definitely been in instances where, I would be in a situation where there's just a bunch of people talking, all these group conversations, and I just feel really left out because I don't understand. I can't carry on and say, oh my gosh, I know what they're all talking about. I don't. So
right,
that self-isolation definitely came into factor where I really felt like I was just out of place because I couldn't really fit in with the conversation because most of the time I don't even know what the topic they're talking about or their topic has changed, but then I don't really realize it right then. I realize it later. So,
right,
it also has to do with like processing it as well.
right. I actually, I think, and part of what I'm really excited about the series is we can kind of educate people a bit more on what, living with cochlear implants is like because I think for a lot of people that are from the outside would see cochlear implants as like a simple fix, like it's hearing or nothing, right? And there's actually a bit of a gray area in between. There's a lot of challenges that are kind of invisible, so to speak, that hearing people don't quite realize that we face. And I think that was the case for many of, my friends. It was on me to kind of educate them a bit. And then I was able to feel less left out because of that, because they actually would incorporate me or, you know, bring about solutions that would, keep me involved and make me feel like I was seen and heard. So, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Well, you bring up a really important point of them not really understanding it until you tell them about it. I mean,
right,
they not understand to the full extent, but they're able to understand in a way that, they might be able to help you. I mean, I've had certain situations where, when I was in school that I get asked, why would you need that? You seem like you would be able to handle it just fine, talking about watching something without captions or not having
right,
my note taker or extra time on tests and things like that. That was something where I really had to say, it's because of my hearing loss and it's because I need X, Y, and Z in order to succeed. I'm not just like everyone else where I can just sit in the classroom and just take the test in an hour. Like I need more than just an hour. And, I don't process the same way as everyone else does. It just requires extra effort to listen and then to really take in the information and learning it, especially because I struggle with learning things very quickly. There are some instances where I can learn it right away and
Right.
get it. But then there are a lot of times where it takes me a really long time to
Hmm.
understand that and learn it and know it by heart. And that it's a struggle. And so then that's something I constantly had to remind people of, like, I just can't function that way.
No, yeah, I'm similar in a lot of ways. Yeah, I am. I am very similar.
Well, and I mean, as adults, we look back and think about, oh my gosh, I wish we had somebody to look up to and ask all these questions about hearing loss, because we kind of had to just figure out ourselves. Because I remember growing up and going to mainstream school and thinking nobody can understand me. I don't have anybody to talk to about this, and just kind of have to figure that out myself. And so now that we're here, we're adults, we actually have had those experiences now. We might not have got it earlier, but we got it later. And so we want people to feel seen and feel comfortable. So if we ever get that chance to just talk to younger people with hearing loss,
Hmm.
what advice would you want to tell them? Because, oftentimes we feel so alone. And so we might not have those opportunities to meet others with hearing loss.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think in terms of advice, I would make sure that they know that it's okay to advocate for themselves. I feel like that's a huge barrier that young people face in schools, in social settings, and I think they need to feel like it's okay. Like you can ask for help. You don't need to just be all fine. Nobody's gonna think less of you. So I think that would be my biggest piece of advice, and then I would probably give them a bit more advice on how to actually do that. But I think the mentality shift is the biggest thing that would need to change for a young person.
Well, absolutely. And I'm sure we both were given the talk of how to advocate for yourselves, because your mom and dad aren't going to do it for you later on in life, because I for
Yeah.
sure did. And I remember sitting in therapy sessions with my deaf and hard of hearing teacher and literally acting out scenarios about how I should advocate for myself in this scenario, and what should I do? When should I get parents involved? When should I get her involved? So I just remember having that growing up. I'm so thankful for that, because that definitely had helped me as I was navigating the higher education world, um,
Right.
because it definitely came in handy. I say my advice for the younger folks with hearing loss is just that embrace your hearing loss. It does not make you any less, and it does not make you feel any different. You're still human. Of course, you're going to navigate those times where you're really questioning, am I hearing? Am I deaf? I mean, I've definitely gone through that,
Right.
but embrace your hearing loss, because I say that it definitely will help you through confidence. You will feel more comfortable sharing about your hearing loss. It took me a while to do that, but I'm really happy that I was able to finally come to terms that, oh yeah, I am deaf, and it's not a bad thing. And I do talk to parents of little kids with hearing loss, and I always tell them, I see my hearing loss as a superpower, because,
Mhm.
there are things that I can do that most people can't. I can
Right.
lip read. I can literally
Mhm.
just lip read a conversation across the room without intentionally doing that. And then, being able to turn off my ears whenever I want to, because, sometimes I just want to just sit in silence and just debrief. And, it's really nice to have that. And then, I think along with that, that it makes me unique, because that is something I always like to share. I'm deaf, and I'm proud of it. And, it's okay to, slowly come to the acceptance of that I am deaf, and that doesn't change who I am. I really loved having my support system growing up, my family, my friends.
Mhm.
They really helped with that, because it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, you've said it yourself. It's not an easy journey whatsoever. And so, when it comes to that, we talked about this a little bit, that we've lived in a world where we never knew anybody with hearing loss. And
Mhm.
so our friends were hearing. So then, we probably were able to have that opportunity later on in life. And so, there are people out there who have never met anybody who has hearing loss. Then there are people out there who have met people with hearing loss. So, what was your first interaction meeting somebody with hearing loss, and who used listen and spoken language? Was it a positive experience, or was it a negative experience? I just would love for you to touch on this.
Yeah, actually, I may be a bit different from you, Emerson, in the sense that I actually had the chance to meet people with hearing loss a little bit earlier on in my life than probably you. My parents, I'm actually very grateful for them for this. They put me at this school here in Atlanta called the Atlanta Speech School, and they actually help kids with hearing loss, kind of, you know, from I think the ages of 3 all the way to 7, like pre-K age, kindergarten age, and they help them kind of be ready to go into the mainstream schools. And so I made a lot of friends through that. But then the issue was once I went to the mainstream schools, I kind of lost track of those friends, and I kind of went through a period in my life where I didn't really interact with anybody else with hearing loss. But to go back to your question about what that experience was like, um, it was, yeah, like I said, it was really good for me. I think at an early age, just be around people that were similar to me. So, yeah, I think it was overall positive, and I made friends and I enjoyed it. What about you?
I I guess I have when I was little, but I don't have any recollection of it. So I'm just going to say no, I actually didn't get to meet anybody with hearing loss and who used listening to spoken language until I was 17. And that's
Wow.
when I attended Leadership Opportunities for Teen, LOFT. It is a 5-night, 4-day camp in Washington, D.C., where we host 40 teens from all around the world, including Canada, London, you name it, we've had it. And so we are having our camp in Washington, D.C., and these are individuals who have hearing loss, preferably in high school, ages around 15 to 18 years old. And they come to connect with others who are like them. So they wear hearing devices, they use listening to spoken language as their primary mode of communication, and they're all mainstreamed. And this camp really inspires the campers to become more confident within themselves, whether it would just be in personal life, school, advocating and more confident with their hearing loss. And this is a camp that really brings in a community and they come in literally not knowing anybody with hearing loss. And they come in and they get to meet their lifelong friends here. And, we're running it in July 29th through August 1st. I hope that's right. And some of the things that Loft will do is we do leadership activities. So you learn how to become a stronger leader and how to lead. And then you learn how to advocate, become a stronger advocate for yourself, whether you're in a school situation where you're not getting accommodated, whether you are having trouble hearing the intercoms at the airport. You get to talk about how you can navigate that. And also just learning about yourself, learning about, okay, I want to feel more confident in my hearing loss. How can I instill that in myself? So it is a really great program. Ammanu and I can both, attest to that because we've been through it and we're here because Loft gave us the opportunity to really want to give back to the community. And then after Loft, then they can join the Young Leaders Network, which is 18 to 40.
And for those who don't know Emerson, who are those that kind of lead the program?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So all of our counselors are deaf or hard of hearing, and they, for the most part, have attended Loft themselves. So they come in to help lead, to help guide you into your leadership journey, advocacy journey, and your personal journeys. They are like your mentors. They really have lived the experience themselves because they have dealt with hearing loss. They know what it's like. They really can help you figure out and understand, okay, who am I in terms of my identity? And then they can apply. So this is a process where you apply through a form and you say, why you're interested. You do a video and then there's a selection process and then you get picked or you don't get picked. And then you come to Loft and you basically help guide the groups that we have. So we have freshmen, sophomores, and then we have juniors and seniors. And then they come in and be counselors. So it's really fun. I've done it, recommend it. And then you have AG Bell staff. So there are some AG Bell staff on site. So I'm one of them. And then our youth programs coordinator, Farrah Matlock, is also there. So we're just behind the scenes running around, making sure everything is going smoothly and that, everything is going into the right places and that everybody's happy. And if we need to assist with anything, we assist. So it's really fun. Actually, it's actually really fun. I actually met friends through there, and that's actually how I got my start with Bell. So it was really great because I have only ever imagined myself in a hearing world, and so
Hmm.
that's what I was used to. And then when I got to Loft, I was like, oh, there are actually people out there who are like me. Because
Right.
for a really long time, I was convinced that I was just the only one in this world that had dealt with this, and there weren't anybody like me. And then when I had discovered about Loft, I was like, oh my gosh, they're just like me. I mean, nobody questioned you for how many times you said what, huh? Or I
Right.
didn't hear you. Can you repeat that? Nobody batted an eye. And then, the patients and everyone knew what it was like. So it was really nice to have that. Even though it took me so long to get there, I'm glad that I was able to have that opportunity. Although, it it's hard because not
Yeah.
everybody gets to have that opportunity to go. And so
Yeah.
everyone's different, but I'm glad that you were able to have that experience with the language speech school and you were able to meet friends. I know it's probably hard that you have lost touch with them, but
Mhm.
I'm glad that you have some memory of it.
Well, yeah, and I think your experience was I'm sure it was very comforting to go to Loft. And I actually had a very similar experience because I am also a Loft alum. So, going back to our conversation earlier about me having surgery and dealing with this failure, and feeling kind of very different from everybody else, Loft came at like the right time for me in my life, I think. And I also had that same experience where I, really enjoyed talking to people who could very sympathize with me on a deeper level about what life is like as somebody with hearing loss. So, yeah, I'm glad you had that experience.
Yeah, well, and that is a perfect segue into how we discovered AG Bell because, through AG Bell, we have a variety of programs that individuals and parents can participate in. So, was Loft your first exposure to AG Bell, or did you have previous exposure to our organization?
No, Loft was my first exposure to AG Bell through my audiologist. She recommended the program, and that's how I discovered AG Bell.
Okay, I can say the same because I also discovered HBL through Loft through my deaf and hard of hearing teacher. And so I remember, I guess she had told my mom she's been wanting me to go to Loft for literally forever.
Mhm.
And I still wasn't old enough. I think she was trying to get her to let me go in high school because this all started in middle school when she was like, she needs to go, she needs to go, she needs to go. And so I remember when I was finally old enough, my mom showed me the email and I was like, yep, I want to go. When can I apply? And I remember there were a couple weeks left of the application and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need to get this in. And I just remember bugging my mom, okay, we need to get this, we need to get this. And it was such a really wonderful feeling to know that there was something like that out there that it had existed and
Mhm.
that I was the perfect age for it. Because if I didn't discover it then, that would be really bummed. I've been really bummed, but I'm so glad that she had introduced me to AG Bell because I mean, I would have not been here today without AG Bell.
Mhm.
And I know I attended before COVID. And so I
Mhm.
know the experience is different attending in person versus online. So
Mhm.
having that in-person connection was so valuable. And I know with the virtual aspect, it would be valuable, but it wouldn't be the same because there isn't that in-person connection. But I really liked that there was something out there and that we're continuing to do more.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you made a good point about the experience kind of being different. Um, for the online or versus the in person, I unfortunately had to do it online, and it was literally the year of COVID where things were shutting down. It was yeah, Locked was I think a couple months after basically the March pandemic started. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but it's all good. I still appreciated my experience for what it was. I still got to meet so many great people, and yeah, I'm grateful for it.
Well, you were still able to have that experience. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's not the same. And, you can always come back as a loft counselor, which would be amazing if you were able to do that. But, you
sure.
know, AG Bell has played such an important role in our lives, whether we were here from the beginning of our cradle to career pipeline or somewhere in the middle of our pipeline. they have still changed so many lives. And, we have them to thank for the friendships, the new skills we've gotten, and the opportunity to be part of a wonderful community. So, because we have had our positive experiences with Loft, how has AG Bell played a role in your hearing loss journey? Whether you came through Loft, Young Leaders Network, volunteering, whatever it may be, how has it played a role?
I think AG Bell has played a significant role, especially in my transition from like teenage to adult or young adult life. Joining the Young Leaders Board as the event chair has been really fulfilling for me because it has allowed me to create positive spaces for people uh, who also are dealing with maybe some challenges of hearing loss and maybe feeling left out in a mainstream school or just want to meet people like I did when I was in high school. So. I think AG Bell giving me the platform and kind of the trust to do that has been really, really helpful to me. And then also giving me the opportunity to speak at symposiums and just can contribute to the hearing loss community. That's I think that's the biggest thing for me. I feel like I'm doing my part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really appreciate your insight on sharing your journey with AGBO because, you're doing wonderful things for the Young Leaders Network. You're giving back to the community, but you're also making new connections and new friendships along the way. And I think that is so important because they're seeing you and they're like, oh my gosh, he totally understands what it's like to be deaf because,
Hmm.
we strive for that connection. I think for me, oh my gosh. I've been here for a long time. I actually started getting involved after Loft was done. So I've been around for over 7 years, I think, 7 or 8 years. I've been here for a
Wow.
long time. I actually started doing volunteering for our local chapter, and then I just started doing other volunteering stuff just wherever was needed. And then I then started doing loft counseling. So I was actually a loft counselor twice in 2023 and 2024. And then
Hmm.
I interned for AG Bell in 2024. And then I actually asked Emilio at the end of my internship, I just said, I really want to work here. I would love to have a job. So when can I start? And so I got a job after that. And then I worked part-time. And then I eventually dived into full-time. So it's been a really good year. I'm in my second year working here, and it's truly amazing how many people I've got to connect with, how many people I got to know and form friendships with. I have met some of my very best friends through
Hmm.
AGBell, and I'm so grateful for that because I truly cannot imagine my life without them. And then the programming, I've got to be a part of Loft, and then I got to be a facilitator for Leap, and then now working behind the scenes for Loft. And, it's a full circle moment, and I'm really proud of the hard work that I've gotten to be here. So it's really nice. And, now with the Young Leaders Network, we're both in it. You're the events chair. I am the coordinator of the Young Leaders Network. And so, it's really nice to have a young adult programming for us after Loft because I remember after Loft, I just was thinking, okay, so what's next? I want to be involved. So it's nice
Right.
that we finally have that platform for the young leaders.
For sure, I agree. And honestly, Emerson, I haven't had the chance to say this to you, but I am really grateful for the work that you're doing, and you're doing such a good job. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Amanu. That means a lot.
Right. So the Young Leaders Network is a global initiative by AG Bell that fosters leadership, professional growth, and community engagement for deaf and hard of hearing young adults. Those are between 18 and 40 years of age. Led by the Young Leaders Board, the network works to expand the visibility of AG Bell and the resources available for young adults who are deaf and hard of hearing. Uh,
So now that we're on the Young Leaders Network, this is a program that is near and dear to our hearts as we are actually partaking into this program. Amanu
mhm.
works on our board as our events chair. So he is the one planning our events and hosting them, which is fabulous. This is our way of connecting our community together and really bringing in new faces and hopefully explore new topics. I am the program coordinator, which means I oversee the network and I oversee the board as well. And I basically just help support and help run these events and programming that our chairs have to offer. So, because this is a young adult programming between 18 and 40 years old,
Mm.
not everyone discovers us in their early years, whether they got to attend Loft or they got to attend our events, whether it be the symposium or a convention when they were younger with their families, they might not have that opportunity. So, over the last few years, we actually have seen young adults come and find us in hopes to find a community and make new friends. So, what makes the Young Leaders Network so special?
Yeah, the Young Leaders Network is special for many reasons. I think it provides a safe space to really be your true authentic self because let's be honest, we have to kind of modify who we are when we go out into the mainstream in the hearing world. Not necessarily in a bad way, but we just can't really always be comfortable to ask, can you repeat that? Or, you know, um, be really comfortable in the way that we speak, maybe we may misspeak something. So I think the Young Leaders Network provides a space for people to really be their true authentic selves. It also, it provides a opportunity to make friends and get to know about somebody else's journey. I think I've learned about so many different ways people find out about their hearing loss or how they've dealt with it. I've gotten really good advice from people in the Young Leaders Network about what to do in a certain situation, like for example, going to the airport and maybe asking to be on in pre-boarding or stuff like that. So I think the Young Leaders Network is really special for many reasons, but yeah, I think the main reason is that you get to be your true authentic self.
Absolutely. I love that you touched on being yourself because that is important. We want people to feel good about themselves. We want people to feel like they're coming to a space where they feel safe and that they belong, that they're able to just talk without feeling judged for, possibly the way they speak or possibly for the way that they're not hearing everything. And so that is such an important aspect of our network is that we are striving for a safe and inclusive community because, I think that is definitely number one. Another thing is what makes our program so special are seeing these people make friends with each other. You know, some of these people come to our events not knowing anybody and thinking, "Oh my gosh, like I'm just going to an event where there's just
Right.
a bunch of strangers and I don't know, there's a little bit of hesitation and then they come to our events and they realize, "Oh my gosh, why was I hesitating about that?" There are people who are like me. There are people who got to share advice, who really got to tell their personal stories. I've met a lot of my friends through the Young Leaders Network, and then I say half, and then the other half came from being in Loft with as a counselor. But it's really powerful seeing these friendships form and
Mhm.
realizing, oh my gosh, I, kind of was involved with that because
Mhm.
we threw on these events. We threw on these events for a reason. And, people come and they really form these friendships because it's, for me, having somebody who understands your reality makes it so much more wholesome. So, that is what makes me so happy. And I'm glad that we can be a part of this initiative to really show that, look, there's a community for you. There is
Mhm.
safe space. You can come and meet friend, talk to somebody who understands what it's like to be deaf, or maybe just ask, how did you navigate this in college or at work? There's just so many things that come to it.
For sure. I really just want to reiterate that um, don't feel intimidated to come to an event, pop in. You don't have to be there for the full hour. You can just see what it's like and you don't have to participate. But, don't be afraid to make your face, known and I think you'll gain a lot out of just putting yourself out there. So if I can really encourage you and push you, that's what I would say.
Absolutely. And I know I've had some people come and ask, I feel nervous about attending this event because I don't know anybody. And so, we really just have to encourage them and say, it's okay. I was once there. I remember coming to an event, literally not knowing anybody, but then I came out of it and thinking, oh my gosh, actually, I met some really cool people. I'm going to connect. One of my friends and I were talking about how did we connect? Because we met right at the beginning of the Young Leaders Board programming.
Hmm.
This is when we had just started. And we were talking about how did we meet? Because we couldn't remember. And we were like, oh my gosh, we actually met at a Young Leaders event online. And but we never really thought of that. We just thought, oh, maybe we connected through other things. No, it was actually through the Young Leaders program that we met. And so I say don't be afraid to put yourself out there because you never know where it could lead you. It could lead you to new connections. It can lead you to opportunities such as like a meetup or a networking connection. There are so many possibilities out there. And I think that you know, it may feel intimidating, but in my opinion, it's so worth it. It is literally so worth it because you are meeting others. Possibly you might even meeting others who are professionals and who are deaf and hard of hearing because we actually get a ton of professionals who have hearing loss and who work as audiologists or speech language pathologists. It's actually amazing to see who comes through our doors. And so, don't be afraid. And these opportunities is what makes it worth it. I say go for it. Even if you have to push yourself, even if you have to have somebody push you for it, but go for it. I think it's perfect. You're probably wondering, who are we? For those who are familiar, that's great. But for those who are not as familiar, we are AG Bell. Our full name is the Alexander Graham Bell Association for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. We are an international nonprofit that connects families and professionals to support children with hearing loss. We are founded by Dr. Alexander Graham Bell, and we have been around for nearly 135 years. We are helping children who are deaf and hard of hearing develop listening and spoken language, access vital resources, and ultimately live a life without limits. Currently, our mission is that AsiaBell works globally to empower individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing. We provide support for them to listen, speak, and thrive. I would love to invite our listeners to come and take a look at our website at asiabell.org. We provide a lot of resources. Our programming that we have talked about is on our website that you can go and explore, and we offer a variety of things. So please take a look at it, and we look forward to seeing you at our next episode of Come On, Let's Hear It.
The journey is not easy, but it is worth it. We have navigated through so many hurdles to get to where we are today. The goal of our podcast is to bring you authenticity, words of encouragement, stories, and provide you with a community of friends. We are so excited to bring you more episodes of our podcast. Emerson and I want to thank you for all being here supporting us. See you next time.